There is a quiet force within you, more powerful than anything you see around you. It does not shout. It does not demand attention, yet it shapes your entire life. Most people move through life believing that every thought that appears in their mind is a reflection of reality. They do not question it. They do not examine it. They simply accept it. A thought arises, and instantly it becomes a belief. But this is where the quiet mistake begins. Because a thought is not a fact. It is not evidence. It is not truth. It is only a mental event, something that appears and disappears, often shaped by past experiences, fears, conditioning, and emotions that have nothing to do with the present moment. If a person thinks, "I am not good enough," they begin to feel it as if it were true. Their body responds. Their confidence drops. Their actions change. They hesitate. They hold back. They avoid opportunities, not because they are truly incapable, but because they believed a thought without questioning it. The thought created a feeling. The feeling created behavior, and the behavior slowly shaped their reality. Yet, at the root of all this was something fragile, something unproven, something that was never tested. The mind has a natural tendency to repeat familiar patterns. If you have thought something many times, it starts to feel real, even if it is not. Repetition gives thoughts a false sense of authority. The more you hear something internally, the more convincing it becomes. But repetition is not proof. It is only habit. And habits, especially mental ones, can be misleading. Thoughts are also heavily influenced by emotion. When you feel anxious, your mind produces thoughts that match that anxiety. When you feel insecure, your thoughts reflect insecurity. In those moments, your mind is not showing you reality clearly. It is coloring everything through the lens of your emotional state. Yet, most people do not see this. They assume that because they feel something strongly, it must be true. But intensity does not equal accuracy. There is also the influence of the past. Old experiences leave traces in the mind, and those traces often speak in the present. A past failure can create a present thought of doubt. A past rejection can create a present thought of unworthiness. But the past is not happening now. The mind is simply replaying it in a different form. If you are not aware, you will mistake these echoes for reality. When you begin to understand that thoughts are not facts, something shifts within you. You create a small distance between yourself and what you think. Instead of immediately believing every thought, you start to observe it. You notice it arise. You notice its tone, and you recognize that it is just one possible interpretation, not the only one. This space is where your power begins, because once you stop treating thoughts as absolute truth, you are no longer controlled by them. You are no longer pulled in every direction by every passing idea. You become more stable, more grounded, more aware. You begin to see that your mind can generate thousands of thoughts, but you do not have to follow all of them. And in that realization, you take the first step toward real control. Awareness is the silent doorway to control, yet most people never pause long enough to step through it. They live in a constant stream of thoughts, reacting automatically, without ever noticing what is happening within them. A thought appears and immediately it pulls their attention. Another thought follows, and they are carried further away. There is no space, no distance, no understanding, only reaction. In this state, the mind is not being guided. It is simply running on its own patterns. To become aware means to step out of this automatic flow. It means to watch your thoughts instead of becoming them. At first, this may feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, because the mind is used to being followed without question. But the moment you begin to observe, something changes. You start to notice how quickly thoughts arise, how often they repeat, and how easily they try to shape your emotions and actions. You may begin to see that many of your thoughts are not even useful. Some are negative without purpose. Some are rooted in fear, and others are simply noise. They come and go without direction, yet they have been influencing your life in subtle ways. Without awareness, these thoughts operate in the background, quietly guiding your decisions, shaping your mood, and affecting your behavior. But when you bring awareness to them, they lose their hidden power. Awareness does not mean stopping your thoughts. It does not mean forcing your mind to be silent. Instead, it means allowing thoughts to exist without being controlled by them. You watch them as they rise. You notice their presence, and you let them pass without attaching yourself to them. Like watching clouds move across the sky, you see them clearly, but you do not chase them or try to hold on to them. In this state of awareness, you begin to recognize patterns. You see which thoughts appear frequently, which ones trigger strong emotions, and which ones lead you toward actions that do not serve you. This recognition is important because you cannot change what you do not see. Awareness brings clarity, and clarity creates the possibility of choice. The moment you are aware of a thought, you are no longer inside it. You are standing outside, looking at it. And in that position, you gain the ability to decide. You can choose to follow the thought, or you can choose to let it go. This is where control begins, not by force, but through understanding. You are not suppressing your mind, you are guiding it. Over time, this practice of awareness becomes stronger. You catch thoughts earlier before they take root. You notice emotional shifts as they begin, rather than after they have already influenced your behavior. You become less reactive and more intentional. Instead of being pushed by your mind, you start to lead it with quiet steadiness. This is the power of awareness. It creates space between stimulus and response. It allows you to pause, to see clearly, and to act with intention rather than impulse. And in that space, you discover that control was never about fighting your mind, but about understanding it deeply enough to no longer be controlled by it. Every thought that enters your mind carries a certain energy, but it is your attention that gives it strength. Most people are not aware of this, so they treat all thoughts equally. A positive thought appears, and it is quickly ignored. A negative thought appears, and it is held onto, repeated, and expanded. Without realizing it, they are feeding the very patterns that weaken them. What grows in your mind is not what appears, but what you choose to nurture. The mind is constantly generating possibilities, interpretations, and inner conversations. Some of these thoughts are empowering, guiding you toward growth, confidence, and clarity. Others are limiting, pulling you into doubt, fear, and hesitation. The difference between these two is not in their presence, but in your response to them. You may not always control which thought appears first, but you always have control over which one you continue to engage with. When you begin to understand this, you start to see how much influence you truly have. A single thought, when repeated and believed, can turn into a mindset. That mindset begins to shape your decisions, your actions, and eventually your reality. If you constantly give attention to thoughts of doubt, you train your mind to operate from uncertainty. If you consistently focus on thoughts of strength and possibility, you create a mental environment that supports growth. Belief is not something that appears suddenly. It is built slowly, through repetition and attention. Every time you return to a thought, you are reinforcing it. You are telling your mind, this matters. Over time, the mind begins to prioritize these repeated patterns, making them more automatic and more dominant. This is why many people feel stuck. They are unknowingly strengthening the very thoughts that hold them back. Choosing what to believe does not mean forcing yourself to ignore reality. It means recognizing that there are always multiple ways to interpret a situation. In any moment, you can focus on what is lacking, or you can focus on what is possible. You can focus on failure, or you can focus on growth. Both thoughts may arise, but only one will shape your direction. This choice requires intention. It requires you to pause and ask yourself whether a thought is serving you or limiting you. If a thought leads to inaction, fear, or self-doubt, it weakens your ability to move forward. If a thought encourages effort, resilience, and clarity, it strengthens your path. The more consciously you make this distinction, the more your mind begins to align with your purpose. At first, this process may feel deliberate and slow. You may need to remind yourself often, redirect your attention, and challenge old patterns. But with time, it becomes more natural. The thoughts that once dominated your mind lose their influence, and new patterns begin to take their place. You are no longer reacting to every thought that appears. You are choosing which ones deserve your energy, and in doing so, you begin to shape the direction of your life from within. The world you experience on the outside is not separate from what is happening within you. It may appear that life is shaped only by external events, circumstances, and other people. But there is a deeper layer that often goes unnoticed. Your inner world, your thoughts, your perceptions, and your emotional patterns acts like a filter through which everything is interpreted. Two people can face the same situation and walk away with completely different experiences. Not because the situation changed, but because their inner worlds were different. When your mind is filled with doubt, even small challenges begin to feel overwhelming. You interpret obstacles as proof that you are not capable, and every setback reinforces that belief. The world starts to look heavier, more difficult, and less supportive. Opportunities may still exist, but you do not recognize them because your attention is focused on limitation. Your inner state quietly shapes what you notice, what you expect, and how you respond. On the other hand, when your thoughts are grounded in clarity and possibility, the same external world begins to look different. Challenges are still there, but they are seen as part of the process rather than a sign of failure. You become more open to solutions, more willing to take action, and more resilient in the face of difficulty. The environment has not changed, yet your experience of it has shifted. This is the influence of your inner world. Your perception acts like a lens, and that lens determines how reality appears to you. If the lens is clouded by fear, insecurity, or negativity, everything you see will carry that distortion. Neutral situations may feel threatening, and uncertain outcomes may feel like certain failure. But when the lens becomes clearer, when your thoughts are more balanced and intentional, your interpretation of reality becomes more accurate and empowering. What you focus on internally also shapes your behavior, and your behavior influences your results. If you expect failure, you may hesitate, avoid risks, or stop trying too soon. These actions then create outcomes that seem to confirm your belief. It becomes a cycle where your inner world creates patterns that reinforce itself without awareness. This cycle can continue for years, shaping your life in ways you never consciously chose. There is also a subtle connection between your inner state and the energy you bring into your interactions. When your mind is calm and focused, your presence changes. You communicate differently. You listen more deeply, and you respond with intention. This affects how others perceive you and how they respond in return. The external world begins to reflect the shift that started within you. Understanding that your inner world shapes your outer experience does not mean ignoring reality or pretending that everything is perfect. It means recognizing your role in how reality is experienced. You begin to take responsibility for your perceptions, your focus, and your responses. Instead of feeling controlled by circumstances, you start to influence how those circumstances affect you. As this awareness deepens, you become more intentional with your inner state. You pay attention to the quality of your thoughts, knowing that they are not isolated events, but the foundation of your experience. The more you refine what is happening within, the more you begin to see changes in how life unfolds around you, not through force, but through alignment between your inner world and your outer reality. The mind, when left untrained, does not naturally move toward clarity or balance. It drifts toward distraction, reacts to every stimulus, and follows patterns that have been repeated over time. Many people believe freedom means doing whatever they feel in the moment, following every impulse without resistance. But this kind of freedom is an illusion, because a mind that lacks discipline is easily controlled by emotions, habits, and external influences. What feels like freedom is often just a lack of awareness, where thoughts, and impulses take control without being questioned. True freedom begins when you develop discipline within the mind. This is not about restriction or rigidity, but about guidance. It is the ability to direct your attention, to remain steady in the presence of distraction, and to choose your response rather than react automatically. Without this discipline, the mind becomes restless. It jumps from one thought to another, from one feeling to the next, never settling, never finding clarity. This constant movement creates noise, and in that noise, it becomes difficult to see things as they truly are. Discipline allows you to create space within your mind, instead of being pulled in every direction. You begin to hold your focus where it matters. You train yourself to return to the present moment, again and again, even when the mind tries to wander. This repeated effort may seem small, but over time, it builds strength. Just as the body becomes stronger through consistent training, the mind becomes steadier through consistent awareness and redirection. There will be moments when the mind resists this discipline. It will seek comfort in old habits, in familiar patterns of thinking, even if those patterns are limiting. It may create excuses, distractions, or justifications to pull you away from your intention. This is part of the process. Discipline is not the absence of resistance, but the ability to move forward despite it. Each time you choose focus over distraction, clarity over confusion, you strengthen your control. As discipline develops, you begin to notice a shift in how you experience life. You are less reactive to external situations, less influenced by temporary emotions, and more grounded in your actions. You no longer feel the need to chase every thought or respond to every impulse. Instead, you move with intention, choosing what deserves your energy and what does not. This inner stability brings a sense of calm that is not dependent on circumstances. Even when challenges arise, your mind remains steady. You are able to think clearly, to respond thoughtfully, and to maintain direction. This is where discipline transforms into freedom. Not the freedom to do anything without thought, but the freedom from being controlled by every passing thought. When your mind is disciplined, you are no longer a prisoner of habit or emotion. You are not defined by old patterns or automatic reactions. You have the ability to pause, to choose, and to act in alignment with your deeper intention. This creates a life that feels more intentional, more focused, and more aligned with who you truly want to become. And now, as you stand at this point of understanding, realize that nothing outside of you needs to change first. The shift begins within. The moment you become aware of your thoughts, the moment you choose them with intention, you begin to reshape your entire experience of life. You are not your past thinking. You are not the doubts that once controlled you. You are the one who can observe, decide, and redirect. This is your power, and it has always been there, waiting for you to recognize it. There will be moments when your mind drifts, when old patterns return, when negativity tries to take hold again. But each time you notice it, each time you bring your awareness back, you strengthen your control. This is not a single decision, but a continuous practice, a quiet commitment to yourself. So move forward with intention. Guard your mind with care. Feed it with thoughts that build you, not break you. And remember, every thought you choose today is shaping the reality you will live tomorrow. Control your thoughts, and you will no longer feel like a passenger in your own life. You will become the creator of it.